This is Tomo Talks episode 4, and today I'm going to talk about the value of raw data and why I think it's a great idea to have it permanently stored. So, as we already know and as we already discussed, the first phase of getting the data to your future data platform, be it analytical or operational, is the phase of ingestion. In the ingestion phase, you're usually using several patterns, and these several patterns are well-known patterns, but I will still like to repeat some of them, which I think are the most important ones. So I would say that most of those patterns are either getting the data through APIs or ingesting the data through SFTP, and my favorite, ingesting the data through message broker, and ingesting the data, the most, I would say, basic way is through copying data from source to target copy. So, these are the more or less vessels for transferring the data to your data platform. Of course, as I mentioned before, I prefer this one for many reasons. For the reason of message broker being the ideal vessel for getting the data in real time and getting the data as it becomes accessible on the source system and as source system is actually creating it. So these are, I would say, the patterns. Then the most important thing is with source systems, we want to have data published. And in the last episode, I was talking about the publishing patterns, the message patterns, why I think the publishing is very important, because source systems are owning the data, creating data, and adding context to the data, adding meaning to the data. So each source systems, except for keeping the data in a database or in some other format, usually it's relational databases if we are talking about transactional systems, has a lot of business rules and business logic applied on top of the data. That's usually called application layer. So if source systems do not publish the data, then source systems are unable to give context to that data. So each time that you get new data on the platform, you have to think about what is the context of that data, what are the business rules that you have to apply, and so on and so on. So for me, the best pattern is source system publishing the data to a message broker. And that message broker can be on your data platform. So what comes next? Usually you would say, okay, we have on message broker, we will just create several consumers. And those consumers are going to consume the data in the way they want. So they will either immediately consume the data as it came. So they will use it, I don't know, for e-commerce, for different scoreboards, real-time analytics or something like that, or they will store the data and later process it for analytical purposes, or they will be used in some kind of data migrations or any other option. So what is not considered usually as a first step is something I would like to call data persistence. So with the data persistence, what we do, we take the raw data that arrived from source system and we store it in the same format as it came to the system, as it is available on the message broker. Why would we want to do that? Well, the first and the most important thing is reprocessing of the data. Because for sure, you are going to want to reprocess the data. That's for sure. I mean, you are going to use it immediately, you're going to transform it, you're going to enrich it, you're going to do all kinds of stuff. But if you want to change something in your processing logic, or if some of your business needs changes over time, or you have a new business need, you will need to reprocess the data. How will you reprocess the data if you don't have it here persisted as a raw? So then you would again need to go to source system and submit the data, republish the data all over again in the message broker. This part is heavy on source systems. It does not comply to the logic of publish once, consume many times, which is a mantra that we repeat constantly. And I think that source systems should be read just once. And once we have that data stored, and once that data is stored permanently, so to say, in whatever format we choose. So we can choose either file system, distributed file system, we can choose NoSQL database, but I wouldn't store the data immediately in relational model, because that means that we already are changing the structure of the data. So it has to be in raw format. It depends if maybe you want to use NoSQL database, so you can index and search for the data, but I would keep to those two techniques. Next step is, once you have the data here, whatever new business need occurs in your organization, you can use the same data that you used before, and you can process it differently using even different execution engines, which are now available, and a new one appears every month. So yeah, that's it. That's the value of raw data that I see. And of course, it's always good to have it as a fail-safe option, as the option that you need to have if you want to republish the data. So it's easier to republish it from here, remember, than from here. It's always easier to republish the data for this consumer if he needs it again, or this one if he needs it again. So yeah, that's more or less what I have to say on the topic of why I think it's good to have a raw data stored permanently. So yeah, stay well and take care. See ya.